Hey Luke, what should I expect buying my first laundromat?
That's a great question. We've got Pasquale, aka Pat, with us today from Connecticut, and we're going to answer just that question. Welcome back to another episode of the Williford Brothers. We are your hosts, Luke and
Lee Williford.
We are joined and honored to be joined by Pasquale. He goes, can I call you Pat on the show?
Yes, you can.
Singarello from Connecticut. And thanks for coming on, Pat. We met each other. When did we first meet each other?
Back in November, I think.
November of 2021?
Yep.
Started working with him. He was interested in getting into the laundromat business. Vetted a lot of different stores. Let's just first tell them a little bit about yourself, your background in sales and whatnot.
Tell us who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, typical corporate sales guy. Used to work for a Fortune 1000 company. I did really, really well, but there was no fulfillment in it. And so throughout the years, you kept looking for more, right? You'd go into work and you'd realize, man, I have to do this again, and I've got to ask people permission for ultimately how to live my life. So there was always this desire for some sort of accelerated income, passive income, financial freedom, and I started dabbling in real estate. I bought some multifamily properties. I bought some commercial real estate, but and eventually I had an opportunity to go work for a real estate investor out in the Midwest. So, as Luke has found out, I'm a quick to excitement kind of guy, so on a whim sort of quit the job, went out there for a couple months, learned what I could, came back, started pursuing my own thing, and now I'm working for a performance and mindset coach on his sales side of things, run all the intro calls for him, and as I've been doing that, I was still looking for that secondary income, right? Because it's still, I'm trading my time for the money. I'm a sales guy, so my income is tied to the amount of phone calls I can make. So ended up I got introduced to an individual named Cody Sanchez. She's an influencer, ex-private equity woman who is big on buying small, boring businesses. And someone in there had started talking about laundromats on one of her things. And did a little due diligence in my area and started looking at data and stuff like that. And it seemed like a really, really good opportunity. And so I started reaching out to some laundromat owners, connected with another individual you work with, Greg, through my current job, right? He's getting coached as well. He introduced me to you, and it kind of took off from there. But yeah.
Absolutely. So I do some coaching, laundromat coaching, just to help other guys out. That's kind of what spurred this, the Williford Brothers as well, just to answer some of those questions. We've been through a million different questions. I remember first talking to Pat, and his excitement is just, I loved it. He had me sold on whatever we were doing. And, I think we all desire for that. But he's been very successful in sales, and he's looking in the laundromat business. And I told him it's a different animal, but I'm going to help you. So I've been able to help him. We've got a store under contract. We're supposed to close when?
Next week.
Supposed to close next week. Yeah.
What had been your experience with laundromats, laundry, up to the point where you decided, I think could get into this business?
Minimal.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely minimal, to the point where I don't even do my own laundry. My wife handles that chore, and it's very, very minimal. But when you're looking at the industry, it's something, it just seemed prime for disruption, right? It was almost a necessity that there wasn't a lot of positive customer experience in certain, as the legacy industry. And so when I started looking at different businesses and different opportunities, it was like, you have to do this. But just because you have to do this doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy it, and I came from, I wouldn't say a high income family where that it could align to that type of necessity in a number of different ways, and it just kind of stinks that same thing with real estate, right? Is some people will look at housing and this is a box that prints money, but it shouldn't be. It's someone's livelihood. It's the same thing with laundromats, right? Is you have to go in here, but just because it's necessity doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to enjoy it. And then with the advancements in technology and stuff like that, and then you go into one like the one we're working on now, it's like, this could be great, and it wouldn't be difficult to get it to great for your customers, as well as getting the benefit of that yourself. And so it kind of took off from there.
You
Love
have
it.
drank the Kool-Aid.
Very much so. Especially this week. I was telling me last night, I was like, honestly, yeah, buying a laundromat is great, but now I want to buy one just to hang out with everybody that I've met this weekend.
Yeah, that's incredible. You hit on so many parts, and if you just listen to this, skip back a minute or so, listen to it again. Pat just summarized so much about where this industry has been and where it is going. It is changing. There's a paradigm shift, and it is changing from it's just a hunk of metal inside a building that produces some cash flow for me to serving people and communities well. And you hit on that big time. And you don't even own your laundromat yet. It's incredible. You have the passion, you have the vision, and you're going to execute on it by closing on your first store here next week. Man, that's awesome.
And he's got on the Wash House Laundromat shirts, but he is going to be branded. The brand is going to be Pat's Laundromats, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And we're putting an S on there because
There's a lot more coming. Yeah.
there's a lot more coming. We speak that into fruition. A few details I want to share about this acquisition. We won't talk numbers, but Pat called me and he said, "I've got this space." And you tell the story about our first call.
The first call. So when I first got connected with Luke, I was like, all right, I've got this list of opportunities, and my approach to finding an opportunity was kind of, all right, let's lean into the sales background. And what I did is I found a data set, every laundromat in Connecticut. I used virtual assistants to find out the name of the owners, their like home addresses, which is possible with the internet. And so I sent them all direct mail. And so it ended up creating like a funnel to a certain amount of opportunities. And the first time I had one where a guy reached out to me. It was an ex-bank. It was, the older individuals looking to get out. It had a basement. It had this and that. It came with the real estate. And then the one I'm working on now, and I sent Luke probably like a 4-page email with like every detail you could possibly think of. And I was like, all right, this one's this, it's this one, it's this one. I was all jacked up, and he's like, all right, let's not waste another second on this one.
He wrote the long email, but I knew it was way overpriced.
Yeah.
It was not in the right area. It was like on a second story, and it had a basement. So he, of course, was like, why? And we explained that. He's learned a lot.
Yeah, but that's the value I'm looking for, right? Tell me, that's
absolutely.
Move on.
From our experience, let's move on.
Avoid
let's
as
not
many
waste.
stupid taxes as you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we only have so many resources and energies, and I didn't want yours to be wasted another second on that specific location when it could be working on finding the right one. Then we found the one that we're working on now.
Yeah.
And supposedly there was 2 buyers, right, that had offers in, and it was listed for, we're not using the accurate numbers, say $250. I said, well, we're going to buy it for half that. These aren't the actual numbers. And he said, what do you mean we're going to?
I was like,
we're going to buy
what?
it for half that? He's like, what do you mean? I was going to make an offer at like $240 or 10% under asking price. I'm like, no, we're going to buy it for
50%.
for 50%. He's like, what? He said, no, they've already said they have an offer for almost the asking price. I said, well, that's Casper. He said, who's Casper? I said, Casper is the friendly ghost. That is not an offer. There's no legitimate buyer. And he said, how do you know that? I said, well, just trust me. He said, well, he says he's got a buyer. This is the seller, the laundromat owner who's ran it into a zombie mat. And anyway, a few days later, Pat calls me. He goes, dude, you were right. There's no other offer. How did you know that? I said, well, I just know, man. He's like, and so they were using it as leverage. And our industry is very different. You go to buy a residential home, and the value is what the value is, and it is what it is. Well, a lot of times there's no way of understanding. It's old equipment. We worked on evaluations this week, but what we're buying in this acquisition is the utilities that are there, the existing customers, of course, but this guy has no business operation or brand that brings any value. So what we're doing is we are eliminating a competitor in the market. We're getting into a really good lease, and we're buying the store from the previous owner for the value that it actually is, which is the infrastructure that's in place, and we're going to utilize that infrastructure. But I think that's just very good for those listening, because I've got other clients across the country and other people that we work with sometimes, and we hear horror stories of people overspending. Lee calls it paying the
Stupid tax.
Stupid tax. And we don't want to do that. I mean, I
Yes.
hate to have those conversations and explain to somebody, if you spend too much on the front end, there's no room
Yes,
for
you have
ROI.
less capital. Yep, you have less capital to reinvest and make the improvements that your customers are really looking for, the improvements that you want to differentiate yourself from your competitors.
Absolutely. And then, when you got your first, quote proposal from your distributor, I was able to cut that in half too. I told him, I said, your first quote from your distributor is going to literally give you a heart attack. So I wanted to prepare him for that. So
Oh, and it did.
it did
Yes.
give him a heart attack
Yes.
because, they want to put as much equipment in there as they can and just really pack it full of equipment and give you these crazy projections. Whereas we want to stay sophisticated in what we do, make
Yes.
sure we're efficient in purchasing, efficient in building out the space and making it a business. Like Lee said earlier, it's not a commodity anymore. It's a business. We're not just selling water and utilities through metal. No, this is an actual living, breathing business, and your customers have a choice. The people in this area have a choice of where they go, and in this area, we want them to choose Pat's Laundromat.
Yes, that's right. So what I'm hearing is, if you are looking into buying your first laundromat, sellers are not going to underprice their laundromat business for sale, and a distributor is most likely not going to provide you the original quote with how much equipment you need. It's going to be stuffed with a few goodies, a few extras, maybe a few extra turns per day projections that you're not going to see out of the gate. So it's very, very important to avoid those stupid taxes, and this is real money. This is your money. To know that there's value in listening to podcasts like this, Laundromat Resource, so many others, so that you can gain the knowledge that you need so that you go into this thing with both guns loaded and you can make a powerful difference in your customer's experience and in your life. I mean, in the trajectory of your life. Hopefully you develop this incredible chain of laundromats in Connecticut or wherever you happen to be. And you can change the trajectory of your life and make an impact and continue to push this industry in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And those are important parts.
Every customer is going to see that investment. They're going to feel that love. They're going to feel appreciated when they come in. And Pat's Laundromats, you taking those first steps may provide employment for other people. Everything we do is about people, and I'm just excited for you to get open and get this thing going.
I'm excited too. Yeah.
Pat, what's been the most difficult thing that you've encountered along the way? Even a couple.
Man. I wish I could answer that directly. I feel like every day there's a new difficulty that gets introduced. But I mean, for me, I think it's the lack of the expectations going into laundry. I think are completely different than the reality of someone that isn't exposed to people like you guys. It's not just buy the laundromat and get the cash flow and collect the money. It's difficult. Like, this is not an easy due diligence phase. This is not an easy transaction. There's been more things that have popped up that I ever expected to have happen.
Yes, the unexpected.
And that's tough. There, I've had days where I've talked to my wife and it's like, there's no way to like how am I gonna finish this transaction? And then luckily I can lean on you experts, and it's like, well, it's this, and this. And so I think the most difficult thing for me was this is not easily navigatable on my own. You know what I mean? It's really not, because some of the interactions with the seller, with the utility companies, with the landlord, with the distributor, with the contractors, it was just, I don't speak this language, number one, quite yet. I jumped in full force, and there's certain, I would say the most difficult thing is I didn't expect any of this, right? I did not expect any of this, and I didn't know. When I went in there, the transaction, for acquisition, I figured, okay, purchase price, cash flow, fine. You know what I mean? Little did I know, it's like, okay, no, we need to look at the lease. We need to look at the age of the equipment. We need to look at the utilities. We need to look at the current
expenses.
Expenses, the building, right? And then from a real estate perspective, it's like, okay, I buy a property, I put a renter in it, and it cash flows. Not like that at all, right? And all of these things outside of just regular market value or multiplier of profit impacts what you should buy it from. So I think that was been the most difficult thing is I didn't expect any of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just construction and all that goes into it. You know, I took things for granted on conversations. You know, people don't know about HVAC and plumbing and piping and natural gas and ventilation and stuff like that. Those little things on the construction side. And then they don't know about the lease. And you come into it trusting. We all trust everyone we encounter. And I think that's what we're trying to bring to the industry is transparency.
Yes.
Trust, so conversations are real, and that laundromats are elevated to another level, and that customers benefit from it, but ultimately the owners do too when they take it seriously. But our industry, you know, hasn't been transparent, you know, and I think that day's coming, one location at a time. But for a guy like you and for those watching, you know, don't take everything you hear. Do your due diligence on what the seller says or the landlord or whatnot, and prove it on paper, you know. And the lease is so important, you know.
I'll add to that too. I think also a huge difficulty piece getting started was there's a lot of things you can't prove on paper, or there's a lot of things that
intangible.
This is what they're saying, this is what's possible, but this is what's been proven in the past, and I didn't have this, right? Like I could go in.
Missing piece, yes.
Yeah, I could go in and I could look at an equipment mix and say, do the math on, okay, 4 times a day, but all right, Luke, based on these demographics and this population and this competition, what is a good equipment mix? What is actual possible revenue? And like, how do I figure out, yes, I'm going to put X $100,000 in new equipment, but am I going to get this money back? Like, I don't know how to. I didn't know how to determine that.
Yes.
And I know you guys did a show on like capacity, but still that kind of blows my mind in a stage that I haven't got to yet for like the next store is how do I look at the store and know this is what equipment mix and capacity I need to do based on what I think I could do from a revenue. So that's been an interesting learning curve and definitely valuable.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah. Hopefully it will have saved you money on the front end and make you a higher net.
Yeah,
especially margin, you know, on the back end.
And the first thing we did, we make sure there's the people there. I always say the worst thing in the world is to throw a party and nobody come. I mean,
welcome to my world.
But seriously, to make that huge investment in the market's not there. So we did the demographics first, ultimately, before we look into the lease and all, just to make sure that the demand is there and it's there in this instance. And I think. That's good. I hope the listeners can grab a lot of these nuggets, and you may be going through the same thing, and you know, I hope this episode really helps you.
I do too. And this is evergreen, and these principles that we've talked about, these little nuggets that we've talked about, you listen to this over and over and over. Take some notes because it might save you $10, $50, $100,000 as you pursue and eventually close on your laundromat. And I mean, that's priceless for a free podcast. You know?
Yeah, we've got them on turns per day.
We've all been there. We've paid the price along the way. You know?
Yeah, we've got them on who should buy a laundromat. You know, we've got a lot of these things. Look back through these and answer. Those are all free. And then reach out to us and let us know how we can help you get through these stages. And like Lee said, I mean, $100,000, $500,000 sometimes, and set you up to even do better. You know, just by knowing some things and not making some mistakes on the front end.
Yes.
Well, this was great, Pat. Thanks for being on, man. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful time. Thank you for being here. And man, excited about where this is going to go. Hopefully we're going to close next week, but we never know. You know, I mean, this is a ever-evolving thing.
It's dynamic.
We're still working on some lease things. So, it's fun. Thank you for being on. Thank you guys for joining in.
We'll get you back.
Pat's Laundromats is coming to Connecticut very soon. And, man, that's awesome. And where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
I'm on every social media you could think possible, Instagram, Facebook. My full name is Pasquale Zingarella.
Yeah, great. Well, reach out to him and thank you guys for listening in. Hope you took some nuggets and get some value out of this. Like, follow, subscribe, do all those amazing things. We love you. God loves you. Thanks for listening in. And Pat, again, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you guys. Thank you for everything.
All right.